All right, so before we take a look at how to index into list and retrieve individual items, I want to show you how you can also convert a tuple into a list, because it is possible. Come to think of it, a tuple allows you to store a collection of values or items into one variable, and it is immutable. However, the list also allows you to store a collection of items into one variable, and it is mutable. So it only makes sense for it to be possible for you to convert a tuple into a list. And what you gain from doing that is now you get something that is mutable instead of the immutability that comes with the tuple. Okay, and in a subsequent video I'm going to explain to you how to decide between choosing to use whether a tuple or a list based on your circumstances and your use case. But before then, let's see how we can convert a tuple into a list. So I'm going to copy a tuple from the code that we used previously. And so Cyberpunk here is a tuple because it is contained in the bracket and the items are separated by commas, like you know by now. Okay, so if I want to convert this into a list so that I can be changing it, what I have to do is I need a new variable, or I can also store it back into the same variable, but I'm going to use a new variable here. So I'm going to call this info, to stand for information, and there is a function called list, which you can also call a constructor, but you don't know what a constructor is now, so I'll stick to calling them functions. But just in case you see it being called a constructor somewhere, you know I mentioned it. So there's a function called list, and what it does is you give it another collection data type as far as that collection data type can be converted into a list. Okay, then this function is going to convert whatever you give it into a list for you. So I'm going to give Cyberpunk as the argument here, and let's check the type of Cyberpunk, which I know you know by now that is going to be a tuple. And then we are going to check the type for the info. Okay, so I do this. We can also print, but that is not very important, so I'll say Python 3, and then I'll call list from tuples.py. That is the file I'm working in. So our first print statement, which is on line 2, is printing the type of the Cyberpunk variable, and you can see that Cyberpunk is indeed a tuple. However, because we invoke the list function on the Cyberpunk variable, it becomes a list. So on line 4, when we print the type, we are seeing the type list over here. So at this point, if you convert a tuple into a list, anything that you know about a list applies to the result of that conversion, because what you have is indeed a list. Okay, so let's take a quick pause, and I will see you in the next video where we start talking about how to index into list to be able to access individual items. So I will see you in that video very soon.